Hello, Miss Ray, and welcome to today's literacy lesson. So, for the past few weeks, you have been writing different stories, haven't you? And you've done such an amazing job, and we've really enjoyed reading them. But this week, we are doing something different in literacy. It's a little bit different. Last week was a little bit different when you did diary writing, and this week is a little bit different again. So, I have got two books here. One you surely would recognise because we've read it, haven't we? The Lion and the Unicorn. And that was a story, wasn't it? About an evacuee during World War II. And here I've got another book. This is called Children and World War II. Now, what's similar about these? We know the content will be similar, don't we? Because this is about World War II, this is about World War II. Have they both got pictures on the front? They have, haven't they? Have they both got titles? They have, haven't they? The Lion and the Unicorn, Children, and World War II. The back then, they both have similar at the back as well because they both got blurbs. Do you know what a blurb is? A blurb is something that summarises what the story will be about. It tells us what the story will be. It says, this series brings history alive with fascinating photographs that reveal lives of everyday people. And this tells us about the story of Lenny and his father goes to war and he gets evacuated. It tells us about the content of the book. Now, something's a little bit different about them though, because this one doesn't tell us a story. Tells us information, real life facts. Well, this, based on true events, evacuees in World War II was real, but this is based on a fictional story. So, what do we call one of these books here? It begins with an F. It is fiction, isn't it? It is not real, it's fiction. Now, that's fiction. What do we call one of these books? It's non-fiction, isn't it? It's a non-fiction text. Now, we looked at non-fiction texts when we did the Egyptians. You wrote a piece of non-fiction writing on Tutankhamun and the discovery of the tomb. And that's what we are going to focus on this week. We are going to be focusing on features of non-fiction writing so that you can go on to write a non-fiction text. So let's get this up. So our lesson objective for today's lesson is to identify the features of a non-fiction text. You're going to be able to know the difference between fiction and non-fiction, to identify key features in a non-fiction text, and to be able to define the key features. Now it's okay to say, oh, that is a title. Yeah, but what is that? What's the title for? Why do we have a title? So we're going to be able to define these key features. So the key differences, haven't we? They are some similar things. They both have blurbs, they both have pictures. Well, some stories don't have pictures, do they? But this one in particular does. They both have a title. They both have an author. But this one's a little bit different. Now, I want you to pause the video now, and I just want you to tell me, or a grown-up in the room, what you remember about non-fiction text. What are they for? What do they do? What's included? Let's see what you can remember from when we did it in Egyptians. Okay, then hopefully you've remembered lots and lots of things which we are going to briefly discuss in today's lesson. So, at the start of a non-fiction book, we have something beginning with a C, and that tells us what page to go to read certain parts of the book. Because with non-fiction text, you don't have to read it in order, do you? You can go to any part. Do you remember what that page is called? That tells us what page numbers to go to for certain parts. It is a contents page. Well done. So they are in order down here, and the page number where you can find certain parts are next to it. Okay then, so there's something to the end of the book that's really important in non-fiction text. One of them is begins with a G, and the words are in alphabetical order. And you go to this page to find the definition of some key words throughout the story. Not the story, the text. So if you are reading a page in your non-fiction book and you see a key word and you're not quite sure what that means, we go to this page to find the definition, and it's in alphabetical order, so it's quite easy to spot. What is this page called, beginning with a G? Well done if you said a glossary. So here we are, keywords, air raid shelter, air raid warden, all of these keywords in alphabetical order. It tells us the definition. So that is what a glossary is. There's another page at the back of the non-fiction text, and this one begins with the letter I. And we go here if we want to find a specific page that talks about these things. So for example, you pick this book up and you really want to learn about the blip. Well, instead of skimming through and trying to find the page that has the blip, you can go to this back page beginning with I, find where it says blip, and it will tell you what page number to go to find information on that certain thing. Do you remember what this page is called, beginning with I? Well done if you said index. It is an index. So if you can see, here's the blip part here, 16, 17, 20 and 29. Those 4 pages will have things about the blip. So it's really good if you're trying to find specific information about one type of thing, which may come in handy for this week's main task. So then, so those are the key features at the start and the end of a non-fiction text. However, there's some key features at in the pages themselves. So in the chapters, which are on various pages. Let's take a look at them. So, my laptop has been playing up today. I really hope it wants to. There we go. It's working now. Happy days. So this is a page here of one of the chapters in this book called On the Home Front. Now, at the top of the page in big writing says On the Home Front, and we call that a heading. Why do you think they have headings at the top of the page? Tells us what that page is going to be about, doesn't it? If we were skimming through the book and trying to find a really good page that we'd like to read, we know this page is about being on the home front and finding out information about that. Fantastic. It's usually in bigger writing, isn't it? So it's in bigger, bolder writing and it's easy to spot. Okay then, so this one here, the top one with a heading, this one here is a subheading. Now, what's the difference between a heading and a subheading? So the heading is for the whole page. This subheading is the title for this little section of writing here. So I know from reading the subheading that this bit of information is about war work. So it's a bit bigger and a bit bolder than the rest of the text, because that's our subheading there, and that tells us what this is about. So a lot of pages in non-fiction text have headings and subheadings. Up here, this little bit of writing here is an introduction. Now, we wrote introductions for our Tutankhamun Egyptian work, and they were really tricky to write, weren't they? Because it's a bit of a summary of what the whole page will be about. So it says here, the war did not only affect the troops, it also changed the lives of those who stayed at home. People of all ages joined in the effort to help their country win the war. So that's just summarising what the home front actually is and what people did. With a bit of a summary, when the chunkier bits of text down here will give a little bit more information. So it's a very broad summary of what the page will be about. And that's what our introduction is for, to introduce us to that page. We've got a picture here, haven't we? So this picture here is a poster that shows a woman working in a factory to help her country. So it's a poster from back in World War II. Now sometimes there's pictures, sometimes there's illustrations, sometimes there's photographs. So it just depends what that page is about and what's required. And I've put this poster here to briefly tell us about what people did on the home front. And pictures are quite nice in non-fiction text, aren't they? Because they help you visualise what you're reading. And there's usually quite a few pictures and photographs and illustrations in non-fiction text. Now, to be able to know exactly what that photo is about, or that picture, I had to look at something. This little thing here. It says, this American poster shows Rosie the Riveter working in a factory to help her country. What's that called? Sometimes we have labels, but that's not a label, is it? It's not labelling what is in that picture. It's another word for it, beginning with C. Do you remember what it's called? It's a caption. Well done if you remembered that. So our caption tells us a little bit more information about that picture. So for example, this caption is telling us exactly what this poster is and who's in it and what she's doing. It just tells us a little bit more. It's quite helpful when pictures are sometimes a little bit hard to understand what's going on. Okay then, so hopefully that was a nice overview of the key features of non-fiction text. Now, if we were in school, we could have a look through lots of non-fiction texts and identify them ourselves. Perhaps you have some non-fiction text at home. They don't have to be World War II text. They could be any non-fiction text whatsoever at all, and you can have a look through them and see if you can spot the key features. If not, that's okay. That's why we've got this PowerPoint. You can go back through this PowerPoint. You've got 2 activities to do today for literacy, and this will help set us up for the rest of the week so we know exactly what these features are. For the first task then, you have got all the key features of our non-fiction text: the heading, the introduction, the subheading, the caption, photograph, bullet points, content, glossary, and key words. Now, our key words are the words that are in bold throughout the text, and they tell us to go to this glossary if we don't know the definition. Okay. So you are going to read the purpose, and you're going to match them with the feature. For example, this helps the reader visualize exactly what something looks like. It usually links to the text. So we know something helps us visualize things, and that is a photograph. A photograph helps us visualize what we are reading. So that would match up the photograph. So you're going to match all these features up with the purpose. Now, if you don't have a printer, don't worry about it. You can just write numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 down one side and 1 to 9 down this side, and you can match them up that way. Your second activity then is a little page of non-fiction text about toys in World War II. And you are going to label them with the words at the bottom of the page. Now, again, don't worry if you don't have a printer, because I've numbered these boxes. So you can just write the word next to the number. Okay, so I want you to take a look at this, read through this, find out a little bit more about toys in World War II. And you're going to label it with the key features. And hopefully, after all that, you'll be experts about the key features of non-fiction text, and you'll be ready to move on to tomorrow's lesson, where we're going to go on to preparing for us to write our own piece of non-fiction. Now, we're going to start writing on Wednesday, so tomorrow's a bit of a research lesson, but on Wednesday and Thursday, we are going to be writing our own non-fiction text, our own non-fiction writing about absolutely anything you want. So I've just done toys in World War II, and the first thing was about the home front, but you can write about anything you've learned about World War II, or maybe something you'd love to learn a little bit more about in World War II. So we'll discuss that a little bit more tomorrow, but that's what we're going to go on to do for the rest of the week. But today's a nice little introduction to refresh our memories about what non-fictions are, because we've done a lot of story writing and we know non-fiction text is very different to stories. Okay, so this is what we want you to send in to us today, those 2 tasks. So have a go at those and we will look at your work later. Have a fantastic rest of your day.